When he came back out of the house, he started shooting.
We need to call the police.
February 20th, 2023, Jackson, Tennessee. A 22-year-old college student drives 2 hours from school because her baby's father called and said, "Come get your baby." It was his custody day, but he didn't want to watch their son. So she left class, drove 2 hours, knocked on the door to pick up her 1-year-old. And her boyfriend's father came to the door with a gun. Bang, 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 bang. 5 shots, point-blank range, while her friend recorded audio from the car. Audio of witness. When he came back out of the house, he started shooting. She staggered to her car, crashed into a mailbox a few feet away, and died. Her name was Tyeasha Starks. She was studying biology at Austin Peay State University. She wanted to be a dentist. She was an honors graduate, a cheerleader, a mother. And to this day, nearly 2 years later, no one has been charged with her murder. Not her boyfriend's father who pulled the trigger. Not her boyfriend who called her out of class on his custody day. Nobody. They took her baby to Texas. Her mother couldn't see her grandson for 4 months, and the man who killed Tyeasha, he's free. Disclaimer. This story contains audio from the scene and descriptions of gun violence. We tell Tyeasha's story to demand justice and accountability. Before we talk about the custody battle that killed her, before we discuss the shots that ended her life, before we examine why no one has been charged, you need to know who Tyeasha Starks really was. Born in Jackson, Tennessee, Tyeasha was the daughter of Tara Harris and Philip Starks. She had a brother who was very close to her growing up. She was loved, supported, and encouraged to chase her dreams. And Tyeasha had big dreams. She was an honors graduate of Haywood High School in 2018. During her high school years, she wasn't just focused on academics. She was a basketball cheerleader for the Haywood Tomcats, involved in multiple extracurricular activities, building bonds and relationships with her peers. Her mother, Tara, described her as someone who loved singing, cheering, dancing, and being amongst friends and family. Tyeasha was that girl, the one everyone gravitated toward, the one who lit up every room, the one you wanted on your team. After graduation, Tyeasha enrolled at Austin Peay State University in Clarksville, Tennessee, about 2 hours away from her hometown of Jackson. She was majoring in biology, with plans to become a dentist. Think about that path: high school honors graduate, college biology major, future dentist. Tyeasha wasn't just getting by, she was building something. She had a plan. She had goals. She was going to make something of herself. But during her time at Austin Peay, something happened that would change the trajectory of her life. She got pregnant. The father of her child was a young man named Bryce Allen Curry. We don't know exactly how they met or how long they dated before Tyeasha got pregnant. But what we do know is that their relationship produced a beautiful baby boy named Tanan Curry. Tyeasha loved that baby more than anything. 1-year-old Tanan was her world. Everything she did, the late nights studying, the grinding through classes, the sacrifices she made, it was all for him. But becoming a young mother while pursuing a biology degree is incredibly difficult. Tyeasha had to miss classes during her pregnancy. She had to balance being a student with being a mom. She had to navigate a co-parenting relationship with Bryce that, from the beginning, was complicated. Because Tyeasha and Bryce weren't together anymore. They'd broken up. And like so many young parents who split up, they had to figure out custody arrangements for Tanan. According to the arrangement they'd agreed upon, Bryce would have Tanan from Monday to Wednesday. Tyeasha would have him the rest of the week. Simple, right? Straightforward. A plan that should have worked. But Bryce Allen Curry didn't stick to the plan, and his failure to honor that custody agreement would cost Tyeasha Starks her life. After Tyeasha and Bryce had their son, things between them went downhill fast. There were constant issues, arguments, disagreements. The kind of toxic back and forth that happens when two people who don't like each other anymore are forced to communicate because they share a child. But they'd made an agreement. Bryce would keep Tanan from Monday to Wednesday. Tyeasha would have him the other days. This arrangement was supposed to allow both parents time with their son, while also letting Tyeasha focus on her education during the early part of the week when Bryce had custody. But here's the problem. Bryce lived with his parents in Jackson, Tennessee. Specifically, he lived with his father, Tyeasha Curry, age 44, and his mother. And according to Tyeasha's family, the relationship between Tyeasha and Bryce's parents, particularly his father Tyeasha, was already toxic. There was bad blood, tension, hostility. Tyeasha's friend would later say, "They were talking like prior that earlier that morning. They were already calling her and threatening her." Threatening her. Over what? Over custody? Over Tannen? We don't know the specifics, but what's clear is that by February 2023, things between Tyeasha and the Curry family had deteriorated to the point of threats. Still, Tyeasha stuck to the custody arrangement. She had to. She was a mother. Her son needed stability, needed both parents involved, needed a routine. So, on Monday, February 20th, 2023, Tyeasha did what she was supposed to do. She drove from Clarksville, where she went to school, to Jackson, where Bryce lived, to drop off Tannen for Bryce's custody days. It's about a 2-hour drive *** from Austin Peay State University to Jackson. 2 hours down, then 2 hours back. Tyeasha dropped off her baby at Bryce's house on Monday morning. Then she got back in her car and drove the 2 hours back to Clarksville to attend her classes. She'd done her part. She'd honored the custody agreement. Now it was Bryce's turn to be a father for 3 days. But Bryce Allen Curry had other plans. Tyeasha arrived back at Austin Peay State University after dropping off Tannen. She'd driven 4 hours total that day, 2 hours there, 2 hours back. She was probably exhausted. But she had classes to attend, studying to do, a future to build. And then her phone rang. It was Bryce. According to Tyeasha's mother, Tara Harris, Bryce called Tyeasha while she was in class and told her, "I need you to find someone else to look after the baby. I have class to attend tomorrow." Read that again. It was Monday, Bryce's custody day. He was supposed to have Tannen until Wednesday. That was the agreement. That's what Tyeasha had just driven 2 hours to honor. But now, hours after she dropped off their son, Bryce was calling to say he couldn't do it. He had class. He needed her to find someone else to watch Tannen. Tyeasha was hesitant, and she had every right to be. This was his custody time. She'd already driven 4 hours that day. She'd already missed classes the previous semester because of her pregnancy. She was trying to get her education, trying to build a career, trying to secure a future for herself and her son. But Bryce was insistent. He didn't want to watch Tannen. He wanted Tyeasha to come get him. Tyeasha suggested sending her mother, Tara Harris, to pick up the baby. That way, Tyeasha could stay in Clarksville and attend her classes. But Tara was at work and couldn't leave. So Tyeasha was faced with a choice. Leave her baby with Bryce, who clearly didn't want him, or drive another 2 hours back to Jackson to pick up Tannen herself. As a mother, there was no choice. She couldn't leave her 1-year-old son with someone who didn't want to watch him, who was calling her in an irate state, as Tara would later describe it, who was creating chaos on what should have been a routine custody day. As a mother, she could not afford her child hanging in the unknown, family members explained. So Tyeasha did what any good mother would do. She got back in her car and started the 2-hour drive back to Jackson. Again, that's 6 hours total of driving in one day. 2 hours to drop off Tannen, 2 hours back to school, 2 hours back to Jackson to pick him up. 6 hours in a car, all because Bryce Allen Curry couldn't honor a custody agreement he'd made. Tyeasha didn't go alone. She brought a friend with her for the ride, and when they got to Jackson, they picked up another friend, Nadia Blockett, who lived near Bryce's house. Why bring friends? Because Tyeasha had been threatened that morning. Because the relationship with Bryce's family was toxic. Because she needed witnesses, needed protection, needed people there in case things went wrong. Tyeasha asked Nadia to do 2 things. Record the custody exchange on her phone and give her a stun gun for protection. Nadia agreed. She handed Tyeasha the stun gun before they arrived at the house. Tyeasha put it in her pocket just in case Bryce tried to act crazy, as Nadia would later explain. And then they pulled up to the Curry family home on that Monday evening in February. When Tyeasha, Nadia, and their other friend arrived at the Curry residence, Nadia stayed in the car with the phone recording. She was documenting everything: audio, maybe video, anything that might be needed if things went sideways. Tyeasha got out of the car, walked up the steps to the front door, and knocked. According to witness accounts and the audio recording Nadia was making, there was already tension in the air. This wasn't going to be a friendly exchange. Everyone knew it. After a few knocks, someone answered the door. But it wasn't Bryce Allen Curry, the father of Tyeasha's child, the man who'd called her out of class demanding she come get the baby. It was Bryce's father, Tyeasha Curry, age 44, the man who'd reportedly been part of the threatening calls that morning. And immediately, there was an argument. What exactly was said is disputed. Tyeasha Curry would later claim that Tyeasha was unnecessarily aggressive toward him, and that she told him to shut the fuck up at some point during the exchange. Tyeasha's friends, who were in the car listening and recording, have a different version. They say Tyeasha was trying to get her baby. That's it. She'd been called out of school on Bryce's custody day, had driven 2 hours, and just wanted her son so she could leave. But Tyeasha was in the doorway, and an argument erupted. Here's what we know for certain from the audio recording and witness testimony. Nadia Blockett, the friend recording from the car, heard the argument escalate. She would later testify. She told him, "Shut the fuck up." Then she was in the yard, and he was at his door. He never stepped on the porch. So Tyeasha said something disrespectful to Tyeasha. Tyeasha was in the doorway. Tyeasha was in the yard. And then, according to Nadia, when she said that, he got mad, and the door shut. Tyeasha Curry went back inside the house. The door closed. From inside the car, Nadia and the other friend probably felt a moment of relief. Maybe it was over. Maybe Tyeasha was getting the baby. Maybe Bryce would come to the door and they could do the exchange and leave. But that's not what happened. According to multiple witnesses, including Nadia, who was still recording, when he came back out of the house, he started shooting. Tyeasha Curry went inside. And when he came back out, he had a gun. And he fired. At Tyeasha. Point-blank range. Bang. The first shot hit Tyeasha. Bang. The second shot hit her. Bang, bang, bang. 5 shots total. Tyeasha Curry shot Tyeasha Starks 5 times in the front yard while her friends watched and recorded from the car just feet away. On the audio recording, which has been heard by investigators but never released publicly, you can hear the argument. You can hear Tyeasha's voice. You can hear the door close. And then you hear the gunshots. 5 shots, fired by a 4-year-old man at a 2-year-old college student who'd come to pick up her baby. After being shot 5 times, Tyeasha Starks didn't immediately fall to the ground and die. Somehow, through sheer will, through maternal instinct, through desperation, she staggered toward her car where her friends were waiting. Imagine the terror Nadia and the other friend felt. One moment they're sitting in the car recording a custody exchange. The next moment, they're watching their friend get shot multiple times and stumbling toward them. Tyeasha made it to the car. She got inside. She was bleeding from 5 gunshot wounds, but she was still conscious, still trying to survive, still trying to escape. And in what must have been pure adrenaline and shock, Tyeasha put the car in drive. She tried to drive away. She tried to get herself to safety, to a hospital, to somewhere she could get help. But she only made it a few feet. According to witness reports and police records, Tyeasha's car crashed into a mailbox just a few doors down from the Curry residence. And there, behind the wheel of that car, with her friends in the vehicle, Tyeasha Starks took her last breath. She was 22 years old, a biology major, a future dentist, an honors graduate, a cheerleader, a daughter, a sister. And most importantly, she was a mother. A mother who'd driven 6 hours in one day just to make sure her baby was safe. A mother who'd left class to pick up her son because the father couldn't be bothered to honor a custody agreement. And she died a few feet away from the house where her 1-year-old son was inside, probably hearing the gunshots, probably crying for his mommy who would never hold him again. Someone called 911. We don't know if it was Tyeasha's friends, or a neighbor who heard the shots, or even someone from inside the Curry house. But emergency services were dispatched to the scene on that Monday evening in Jackson, Tennessee. When police and paramedics arrived, they found Tyeasha Starks slumped over in the driver's seat of her car, which had crashed into a mailbox. She had 5 gunshot wounds. She was unresponsive. Paramedics attempted to revive her, but it was too late. Tyeasha was pronounced dead at the scene. Police immediately began investigating. They interviewed witnesses, including Nadia Blockett and the other friend who'd been in the car. They reviewed the audio recording Nadia had made. They examined the crime scene, and they talked to Tyeasha Curry, the shooter. Now, here's where things get murky, and where the injustice of this case becomes most apparent. According to the Madison County Sheriff's Office, this is what they determined happened. The disturbance escalated, and witnesses corroborated that Miss Starks arrived with a stun gun and was actively arching the device when she was shot. Read that carefully. The official police statement says Tyeasha had a stun gun and was actively arching it, meaning she was pointing it at Tyeasha. threatening him, about to use it. If that's true, then Tyeasha Curry could potentially claim self-defense. If Tyeasha was threatening him with a weapon, he was defending himself and his home. But Tyeasha's friends tell a completely different story. Nadia Blockett, who gave Tyeasha the stun gun in the first place, adamantly denies that Tyeasha ever pulled it out or threatened anyone with it. She never pulled the stun gun, Nadia told reporters. I gave it to her for protection because they were threatening her earlier that morning, but she never used it. So who's telling the truth? Was Tyeasha actively threatening Tyeasha with a stun gun, justifying his use of lethal force? Or was this a setup, a premeditated killing disguised as self-defense? Tyeasha's family believes it was a setup. They wanted to kill that girl, one friend said. If it was up to me, the daddy would be in jail, the mama would be in jail, and Tyeasha's baby daddy would be in jail. The theory. Bryce called Tyeasha out of class knowing she'd have to come get the baby. The family knew there would be an argument because the relationship was toxic and there'd already been threats that morning. And when Tyeasha showed up, Tyeasha was ready with a gun. Whether that theory is true or not, one fact remains undisputed. Tyeasha Starks was shot 5 times and died, and no one has been charged with her killing. After the shooting, the Madison County Sheriff's Office conducted an investigation. They interviewed witnesses. They reviewed evidence. They listened to the audio recording. They talked to Tyeasha Curry. And at the end of that investigation, they made a decision. No arrest, no charges. Tyeasha Curry, the 4-year-old man who shot a 2-year-old mother 5 times in his front yard, was not arrested. He was not charged with murder. He was not charged with manslaughter. He was not charged with anything. The sheriff's office turned over all their findings to the Madison County District Attorney's Office, and the DA, Jody Pickens, has still not made a decision on whether to file charges. That was February 2023. It's now nearly 2 years later as of this recording, and Tyeasha Curry remains free. Tyeasha's mother, Tara Harris, is devastated and furious. I'm upset because my daughter was murdered, Tara told reporters. This was a senseless killing. My daughter had just dropped him off that Monday morning. He called her in an irate state, saying he was not going to be able to keep my grandson, and he knew she was in class, so she went back to get her baby. Tara continued. My daughter was robbed of her life. She was robbed of all her accomplishments, and the person who killed her is walking free. In April 2023, 2 months after Tyeasha's death, Tara Harris and a group of protesters showed up at the Madison County District Attorney's Office, demanding answers and demanding justice. About a dozen protesters with signs rallied, chanting, "No justice, no peace." They wanted to know why no one had been arrested. They wanted to know when charges would be filed. They wanted anyone to be held accountable for Tyeasha's death. The protesters even went to the Jackson mayor's office. The mayor told them, "I have no authority over the DA's office or the sheriff's department, but I can ask questions. And that's what I'm going to do." But asking questions hasn't produced results. The family finally got a meeting with the Madison County Sheriff's Office, who promised to continue investigating. But months passed, then a year, and still no charges. When reporters asked DA Jody Pickens about the case, his response was, "No decision has been made on charges." That's it. No timeline. No explanation of what else needs to be investigated. Just no decision yet. Meanwhile, Tyeasha Curry is free. Bryce Allen Curry is free. And Tyeasha Starks is dead. Her family believes the lack of charges is because of who the Curry family is, or because police bought Tyeasha's self-defense claim, or because a young black woman's life doesn't matter as much as it should. This man had time enough to go in and cool off, one protester said, and he murdered a young black mother in cold blood. That's the key point. Tyeasha went inside the house. He closed the door. He had time to think. He had time to calm down. He had time to make a different choice. Instead, he came back out with a gun and shot Tyeasha 5 times. How is that self-defense? How is that not murder? In the immediate aftermath of Tyeasha's death, her family was dealing with grief, shock, and the beginning of what would become a long fight for justice. But they were also dealing with another devastating reality. Tanan, Tyeasha's 1-year-old son, the baby she'd died trying to pick up, was now in the custody of the Curry family, the same family whose patriarch had just killed his mother. And shortly after the shooting, the Curry family, Bryce, his parents, and baby Tanan, relocated to Texas. They left Tennessee. They left the jurisdiction where Tyeasha had been killed. They took Tanan to another state, and Tyeasha's mother, Tara Harris, was not allowed to see her grandson. Think about that. Your daughter is murdered. The killers take your grandchild to another state, and you have no legal recourse to see that baby because the father has custody. For 4 months, Tara Harris couldn't see Tanan. 4 months of knowing her grandson was being raised by the family who'd killed his mother. 4 months of Tanan growing up without anyone telling him about Tyeasha, about how much she loved him, about the woman who'd driven 6 hours in one day just to keep him safe. Tara fought. She hired lawyers. She negotiated. She begged. And finally, after 4 months, the two families were able to work out an agreement where Tara could see Tanan. In June 2023, Tara Harris posted a video and statement about finally seeing her grandson again. The video shows Tanan running toward his grandmother. You can hear the joy, the relief, the overwhelming emotion of a grandmother who'd been kept from her grandchild for months. In her statement, Tara wrote, "Happy is an understatement right now. First and foremost, I have to thank God for what He has allowed to transpire this morning. After a rough 4 months of crying, praying, fasting, and crying again, God saw fit to touch their hearts and allow me to see and spend some time with my grandbaby. I am overjoyed at the moment and can't really put into words how excited I am to see him. This is just another sign from God that He has everything in control and it is already worked out in my favor. I will continue to hold on and be steadfast." But even this small victory, being allowed to see her own grandson, feels hollow, because the man who killed Tyeasha is the same man helping raise Tanan. The family who took her daughter's life is the same family controlling access to her grandchild. And there's nothing Tara can do about it because no one has been charged with a crime. Tara Harris has not given up fighting for justice for her daughter. She continues to speak to media outlets. She continues to push the district attorney's office. She continues to rally support from her community. "I don't want the investigators to go away," Tara told reporters. "I won't stop until there's another charge and justice for my child." Tyeasha's friends are also vocal about what they believe happened. They're adamant that this was a setup, that Tyeasha never pulled the stun gun, that the Curry family lured her there with the intention of killing her. One friend said, "I don't care what nobody says. Tyeasha was set up. They wanted to kill that girl. And if it was up to me, the daddy would be in jail, the mama would be in jail, and Tyeasha's baby daddy would be in jail. I don't care, because the granddad shot her, but they all should be in jail." Another friend explained the manipulation. "You're blowing this girl's phone while she's at school, trying to get her education, trying to make a living for her and her kid, trying to make the best life possible, and you keep calling her on your day to keep the baby. So she, being a mama because that's what any mother would do, she's going to leave and go get her baby. You see what I'm saying? Asterisk, asterisk. And when she gets there, y'all get into an altercation, which y'all already knew was going to be an altercation because the relationship with the family was toxic. Y'all knew that. He decided to go in the house and get a gun and shoot this young lady, compared to him, little girl. And as a man, yeah, she was set up. And that's premeditated. And I don't understand how ain't nobody in jail." The theory is clear. Bryce called Tyeasha knowing she'd have to come get Tanan. The family knew it would be confrontation.